sustainability is indeed the bedrock for a future-ready company. And being one of the most valuable companies in the world, so to speak, today, Alok, if you can tell us any specific strategies that you have in place to balance out, your growth objectives with your sustainability goals.
Sure, thank you. Firstly, thank you for the opportunity to be a part of the forum. And we had three distinguished luminaries talk about the power of purpose with just true passion. So, it was absolutely amazing to just hear the stories around how they shaped up. At Microsoft, our mission is to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. And if you think about climate change, it's going to be it's truly a defining moment. I often go back to Ernst Hemingway's quote, climate change, to paraphrase that, climate change came gradually and then suddenly. So, we really believe that technology, just as Sanjeev just talked about a moment ago, technology has an opportunity to help businesses transform themselves in line with their power, their purpose, their ambition on how they can be a responsible citizen. So, on the sustainability front, we've been working on this since 2009, and in 2012 we became carbon neutral. And over the years, we continue to enhance just what is it that should be the charter that a tech organization should carry. So in 2020, we announced our sustainability goals, which is to be carbon negative by 2030, water positive, and zero waste by 2030. And we want to protect more land than we use, which means, for all the owned or rented infrastructure that we have, including data centers, they need to be we need to protect more land and provide watershed areas and water scarce environments. That's the goal that we are working towards. And by 2050, we want to remove all the carbon that we've emitted as an organization since the inception of Microsoft in 1975. So ambitious goals, and we are steadfast on that commitment.
Ambitious goals indeed. You mentioned carbon neutral till 2030. It's 6 years to go, less than 6 years to go. Tell us, so far, what have been your insights from this journey as a tech player?
Well, first and foremost, it's really hard. To be fair, you fundamentally need to rewire the organization in thinking, acting, and supporting the ecosystem to get to an ambitious or an audacious goal like the one that we're taking towards. First and foremost, for those of you who are familiar in this space, Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3, despite us running data centers and all the other services that we provide, our Scope 3 emissions are 96%. And because it is the case, we will continue to make the effort of what we do within Scope 1 and Scope 2. We've brought it down by almost 18% year over year. But the 96% emission requires us to look at what can our ecosystem do for us. How do we think fundamentally about what can we do as an organization, what can our customers do, and what can we do at a global level. So those are the changes that we've brought about across a diversity of activities that we've done over the course of the last 4 or 5 years, ever since we've made this commitment. And we honestly believe that we are not the only one who can help us get to be carbon negative by 2030. There's a lot more that everyone needs to do. That's a part of our value system.
We all know, all of us know that, every big tech player out there is in the arms race for AI supremacy. Everyone is flexing their AI muscles. But let me ask you, how is AI helping in your journey towards sustainability?
That's a great question, and you often see headlines that saying AI consumes so much power, so companies that are providing these services really need to be held accountable for the energy requirements as well as the heat that the infrastructure generates. So despite all of the enhancements and advancements around AI that Microsoft's been talking about, we're still steadfast on our goal to 2030. It does put us to rethink just how we build our infrastructure and our services. So 3 or 4 areas that I wanted to call out. The first one is, how do we fundamentally design data centers, infrastructure, cooling that allows us to consume less electricity and less water? that is something that we've been working towards, and we believe that we have a great path for us to be able to help our customers take advantage of that. The second area is our commitment to renewable energy. So in order for us to get to be carbon negative by 2030, we have to move all our infrastructure to renewable energy by 2025. So by end of next year, 100% of our infrastructure will be on renewable energy, and we're investing in wind, solar, and we've just announced a partnership on using a nuclear power plant to be able to fuel our data centers. So that's one part, which is how do we look at a non-carbon source of energy to be able to run our infrastructure. The third area is what can AI do to help businesses and organizations use lesser amount of energy or be able to get to outcomes faster. Two areas that I want to talk about. The first one is weather. All of us are talking about the weather patterns being changing, intensity of storms going up. How do you use AI to predict weather better? And we've released a model which is open source that allows customers to be able to take that data and incorporate that and be able to predict weather with a higher degree of accuracy. And the last area is how do you use AI for physics, chemistry, and biology, which is material science, for example, which is how do you create a battery for that uses less lithium. So we've been able to work with a laboratory to find a stable material that uses 70% less lithium, which means it can be made more affordable. So lots of avenues, not just of what we do within our infrastructure, our products and services, but how do we make it really something that's valuable for customers to take forward?
Yeah, and if you can also highlight some of the sustainability goals that you've achieved over, let's say, past 1 year, over the past couple of months, because it's a huge task, it's a Herculean task, but when you break it down, sometimes it seems easier. So over the past few months, what have been your sustainability wins, if you can say?
Well, a couple of areas that I want to call out. The first one is on the amount of renewable energy infrastructure that, or power purchase agreements that we've signed up, some that we are setting up. So those have been real highlights. In India, we've recently signed almost a 440 megawatt contract with Renew Power. That's been an area that we've worked extensively towards. The second area is around the opportunity to bring down the amount of water required in our data centers, almost bringing down by 70% in some instances, or even where we're opening data centers like in Finland or Sweden, how do we look at really using minimal amount of energy that is coal-based or carbon-based, and Sweden data centers are 100% renewable energy. The third area is our successful testing of hydrogen fuel cells as backup for our data centers. So that's something that we've done, which means when you use those as backup rather than diesel generators, that's an opportunity that we can replicate across the 300 plus data centers that we have. So those are some of the instances that we've been able to accomplish some degree of success, and we'll continue to push forward on that.
And when it comes to sustainability goals, and I'm always curious to understand for a big, like global player like Microsoft, do you have anything specific for a particular region, for a particular country, let's say for India market for that matter?
Yes, so three areas that we are focusing. The first one is every time a customer moves to our cloud infrastructure, they significantly reduce both the energy as well as on the power requirements that are there. Our tests have shown you can bring it down to as low as 90% of the energy requirements will be taken away rather than running it off your own data centers. So we've worked with customers to help them understand how they bring down their energy, and we have a free-to-use dashboard that people can check. So that's the first one that we've worked with several customers here in India. The second area I talked about is the contract with Renew Power. We're very proud of that, and we'll continue to expand as we build in more and more data centers around that. The third area is how we work with some of the NGOs to support, sustainability, both in driving education, because we believe teaching people about sustainability is going to be a very critical task. Most people will not know what to do with sustainability or why should they care. So while we're doing that in the training, we're also looking at how we work with NGOs on disaster management. We've partnered with an organization called Seeds here in New Delhi, where they work with agencies and people on the ground. For example, a cyclone in Orissa. How do we identify which are the most vulnerable houses? Or in a heat island that in peak summer in Delhi, in Yamuna Pushta, for example, how do you know which houses are the ones that you need to go protect? Because death associated with wet bulb, which is the humidity plus the heat, can be far more difficult to identify than just any other reason. So those are areas that we work to make sure that our ecosystem, the NGOs, and the social impact that we can drive with sustainability is big.
And also, in your experience, what role really can, a large tech company play in bringing in all of these elements of the ecosystem together, the government, the NGOs, and, to further adopt or, be open to this sustainability objective?
No,
going forward?
that's a great point. And globally, we are part of several coalitions where we help standardization of reporting around sustainability. So you all heard record, report, reduce as the mantra, but how do you make it real? How do you understand that 2 days of a stay in a hotel translates to how much of equivalent carbon emission? So how do we make it easy for organizations to standardize how to report? That's been one area. Supporting water-stressed areas and improving biodiversity is another important aspect of what we can do to make the ecosystem really understand what to do more. And the last thing that I want to call out is, at the end of the day, as a technology company, we have to find every avenue to empower individuals and businesses to say, here is the extra effort that I can put in by virtue of technology to get insights, to be able to report out better, to comply with what government needs to do. And that's something that we are partnering across the world with governments and businesses.
Great. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us today.
Yep. No, I appreciate that. Thank you for the opportunity.